Did you go anywhere?
Just up north, Wisconsin.
Oh. Tons of sun up there at this time of year.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome, everybody. As we bring this Milburn School District 24 Board of Education Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Ms. Foss,
Yes, present.
Mr. Coleman, Mr. Gray, Mr. Lorenzo,
Here.
Mr. Murphy,
Here.
Mr. Pederini,
Here.
Ms. Roberts.
All right. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment? No. All right. Does anybody have any additions to the agenda? Information and discussion. First reading of the board policies for review.
Okay. So these are policies that we've been talking about a little bit in that we had a couple of questions about, so I got some clarification about them. And so if you have any questions about or suggestions for any of them, please let me know, review them, let me know before the next meeting so we can get that out. The first two qualifications, terms and duties of board officers, I met with, Sean had a question about it, I met with him and we are set to go he just had some questions about it and we answered those questions for him. We are following the policy as it's written, so it's all good. Equal opportunity minority recruitment, he has to look into that one to see if all of the categories were legal or if the school district had any flexibility with that. In fact, we do not. That reflects the law, what's written, so that one will remain as is. And then there's a question on the hiring process and criteria, and I'm just going to highlight where that was. We're going to suggest a change there. This paragraph is a little bit squishy. If you actually not squishy, but it's a little bit confusing when you read through it about who's notified if there's something pops up on a hiring, and if this is referring specifically to a superintendent. The question is, would the whole board be notified if there was something that popped up on a investigation? And they're talking about when you're hiring somebody, we have to get fingerprinted. That's every employee. And so if something pops up on the state, either the registry or more likely past DUI or something would pop up, would the whole board be notified? So the suggestion is to, in the sentence right here, where it says the school code requires the board president to keep a conviction record confidential and share it only with the superintendent, regional superintendent, state superintendent, state education prep, and licensure board, or any other person necessary to the hiring decision, which presumably would be the board. But Sean felt more comfortable that if we added after the board president and the school board, just to clarify that, to make it a little clearer. Because at the top it says school board, at the bottom it says the board reserves its right, but in the middle it's kind of left out. Probably just an assumption, but.
Wait a minute, so we would go along with superintendent, regional superintendent, state superintendent. The school code requires the board president to keep a conviction record confidential and share it only with the board, the superintendent, the region. Okay.
Yeah. So if you have any further questions about that particular school board policy or any of the others, please let me know. I'm happy to either talk to our attorney to ask for clarification, look up references. I've done that in the past. I've got the original code book that this is based on, so if there's a question about the code. But there's also a summary code book that I use more frequently that kind of gives you the background. Or there's sometimes public act legislation that I can look up where it refers to. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
And we get most of these from press policy, so they have lawyers kind of go through the code and write them and adjust them as they go through. So they're generally following the code, but sometimes we make adjustments for our specific district.
Yep.
Or what we feel is better. Good. All right, so we'll vote on those next time. School board governor's recognition application. You want to explain that one?
Yep, sure. So the state, or the Illinois Association of School Boards has a school board governance recognition application that we can apply to. We have applied to this. You can apply every 2 years. We have done that, except we skipped last year and kind of got left off. But we can apply for that and it looks back every 2 years, and there's certain criteria that we typically meet that would allow us to get that recognition. One of the criteria is that we have a delegate attend the fall conference and participate in that. Was it you, Peter, this year?
Mhm.
Stephen has done it before.
Yeah.
Brendan has done it before. So we have to do that, and every year we have to, as part of this process, we don't have to, but if we want this recognition, we have a school board governance review with an IASB field services rep, and we've done that before. And actually, I reached out to her last week and got some dates for us to do that again, because we are due to do that. And I sent that out in my notes on Friday, but if you want to take a look at that, there are specific dates, and we need to get that date settled pretty quick. So we have June dates ready to go for that. Those dates fill up with them, so if we could look at that, please, and get back to me, that would be great. So there's that, and then there's you have to have district improvement plans, community engagement. We write out what we've done for community engagement over the last 2 years, what our plan is for strategic planning, what our plans are in various items like superintendent evaluation, which Brendan is presenting on tonight, board orientation. There's all kinds of different criteria that we would respond to, and then we apply for that, and then we're recognized at the fall dinner.
It's all stuff we do, but then we
Yep.
get to show off and say, hey, look, we are a good board. We have proof.
Yep. Yep.
And it doesn't cost anything.
No, it does not cost that.
And if there's volunteers who want to help on the application, it's a little long-winded, so if you want to. Summer help.
All right. Every year we hire either sometimes teachers, sometimes other employees like bus drivers who want to work in the summer, sometimes college kids to help us with maintenance in the summer. There's waxing of floors, there's mowing, weeding, painting, all kinds of different maintenance activities that we just need extra help for to get the buildings in shape over the summer. So we're looking to hire some more kids this summer, or not just kids, more people, adults. So the recommendation is we don't know yet, but typically we hire between 6 and 8 additional staff members to work over the summer at about 12, whatever minimum wages. If they're college kids, we pay minimum wage, which is 12 something an hour. And if it's a school employee, we start them at the custodial wage,
Starting custodial wage, yeah.
which is 14
something.
14.79-ish.
I think I might have put that.
I think it's in your board note, or
I think so.
yeah, in your board notes. So we'll review that later, but we just want to give you a heads up that that will be on the agenda for approval at the end of this month, along with an overall estimated cost. Okay? That's it.
Okay. Superintendent evaluation. So as Dr. Lynn mentioned, we didn't really do this year, so I want us to do it, start thinking about it this year because it's actually a very involved thing. A lot of you guys were here, you came in and then we did an evaluation, and you're all like, we can't really do this, we don't, we haven't been here. So one of our most important jobs according to the IASB is to hire the right superintendent for the job. And then evaluate him on a yearly basis to make sure he or she is doing the right job that we want. And it's a very important role because, you know, we're kind of the voice of the community. We're the elected officials. We've got a good makeup, cross-section of the community, pretty decent anyhow. And so looking at the strategic plan and other things that we know about the community, we create an evaluation tool. So, why do we do it? Because what we really don't want to do is one day come up and say, hey, you know, you're not really doing what we expected. You know, he's got a job. He's an expert on education, so he can handle that. We've hired him to do his job. But if we don't tell him what his job is, then it's unfair to say if he's not doing it right or not. It also helps create a stronger bond between the board and the superintendent because we're constantly communicating what do we want, what is the direction we're going, do we really think you're going that way? Because he'll do periodic updates through the year. It's not just 1 year later come by and say, hey, this is what I did. It's usually about every quarter or so or during his board reports, he'll be, okay, this is kind of what we're doing and this is why I brought this out and this is how I expect us to meet your expectations. So, if we go to the next one. In the contract, so this is actually the old contract, but I think it's the same as the new one. We mutually discuss and evaluate the working relationship, rapport, and understanding. He administers the school board policies and stewardship. So these are just the kind of basic things that he should be doing. But then we set forth the performance goals. No, sorry, those performance goals are for the student achievements. So those are based on the grades of the students, the math tests, the scores, and that kind of thing. So there's the standard performance goals, and then we move on to the other ones. Down at the bottom, determine exhibited leadership, guidance, and effort needed to achieve the goals. So, so we've got two basic things that he's got. He's got to make sure the academics are hitting the, growing and learning. But then we also learn from the strategic plan, what does the community think we should be doing? And so if we go to the next one, that's kind of what that is. we can start creating our evaluation on the superintendent competencies, our relationship with the board, community relations, staff relations, business, instructional leadership, and then the goals. The Illinois performance standards are kind of what Illinois wrote up, and they're really kind of dry and boring, but they're, what an education leader should be doing. The job description is basically the academics, and then the strategic plan, that's where we really have to put our minds together and decide what's going on and what we want him to do, because that's real where there's kind of flexibility. So if you click the next one, there's the competencies. And this was just brought from PowerPoint that somebody at IASB created. I don't know how much we want to really get into these on the evaluation, but we should definitely keep them in the back of our mind on the first A, B, C, D, E. But I think our real big ones as the board are going to be the F, and that comes from the strategic plan, which is next. And I just kind of pulled out from there kind of the essence of the document that we made and is on our website. So we don't necessarily, obviously that's a lot of things to say, hey, let's hit all of these, but we can kind of distill out, hey, for this next year or this next couple of months, these are some goals that we think you can hit, a timeline that you can hit them. You can come back and say, here's my plan for reaching those goals, and then keep you updated on the plan. The really tough part about this is it can be interpreted different ways. Even though it was community members who came in here 2 or 3 years back now and sat down and said it was 40 or 50 of us at the most, I think, over a couple of days. But everyone who reads it, what's a stimulating environment?
What's responsible stewards, yeah.
Exactly. What does that stuff mean? So that's where we come in and say, this is what it means, and this is how we think, the kind of direction we want to go on it. We can't really obviously we're not going to be ready to do the whole thing tonight. But in June is when we usually set out the goals. So I figured we've got till June to kind of really look through this. The notes are in the board, in the Google Drive. So you can go through those. And I'm sure we've still got a bunch of that stuff saved by. But for us, for now, we can go to the next one. I would like all of us to go back and just kind of go through all this stuff. What does this really mean? What do we think people meant by this? Maybe ask some questions at meetings or whatever. What kind of expectations do you think are reasonable? How often should he give us feedback on his progress? And then we have to create some sort of tool so that at the end of this whole thing, we have a written feedback. It says here, these were the goals. This is how well we think you met them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever. Here's a little bit of feedback on that. Hopefully they're good. We don't expect it to be perfect, but he's got to have that actionable feedback. And so that's what we're building, and there's no real set goal for it. We'll share this out to you, for you. I have links on here of It got links on the evaluation tools that IASB has suggested. They've got like 4 or 5 that are kind of generalized. You can look at the one I did last year, or just make something completely new.
So just, I wanna make sure I'm understanding correctly, what we're doing first is we're setting goals, cause we have the strategic plan, right? So we're saying we wanna look at that, set goals on that, and then like a rubric of how we're gonna measure those goals?
Yeah, Danielson for superintendents or what?
That's what the,
The ISLAC standards are that.
yeah. The Illinois performance standards are kind of Danielson.
Yeah.
That's here.
And they're good as a general, but I wouldn't want to do them only.
Yeah.
So do we normally do 3 goals, or was that just an example on the?
No, we can do as many as you want.
Well, yeah, we want them.
I would,
Yeah, okay.
I would.
120.
Where's the slushy machine? We have a goal to have a slushy machine at board meetings.
I would say 3 to 5 are probably your optimum.
3 to 5.
7 at the outset, no less than 3 for sure.
Do we have access to the old one?
Yep.
Okay.
And, you know, yeah, none of those terms or anything are really defined in there. And, you know, a lot of the people who were here during the last strategic planning have moved out. Some of them are still on the board. And I think the big thing is, I was the only one here when we did his last contract, so we want to make sure that he's not getting a whole bunch of new, because the last 7 people liked him, but do you guys still like him? You know, this is the way to make sure that he's doing the job that we want, because we are the people who hired him, and we're the people who are evaluating him and making sure that he's doing the job that this community needs. So, and if he's not, he can change before it's too late. Any questions?
So you'll share that and it's in the shared drive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Thanks.
I'm also working with Veronica to organize the whole drive, board of education drive.
I was gonna say, we can make that a strategic goal.
That's, I don't think, yeah. All right. What is next on our agenda? I'm running this thing. Future agenda items, board policies for review. Do we have anything else we want to add on there? Do you guys want to bring this up again at the next committee of the whole meeting to discuss some things, or?
Yeah. So we should probably keep this on the agenda until June.
Okay. All right. Superintendent's report.
Okay. I wrote notes and now I can't remember what my notes were.
Just thinking
Been
of
a
the
good
slushy
week.
machine.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm stuck.
It's already on that.
Some meeting dates coming up. We have graduation, which is on May 24th, which is a Tuesday, I believe, right?
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday night, May 24th. So all the board are welcome. It's not mandatory, but we will acknowledge all the board members at that meeting. So you're invited to attend the 8th grade promotion ceremony. We don't graduate because you're not getting a diploma, but it's a promotion ceremony and end of your time here at Milburn celebration. It's going to be outdoors. Well, Jake can probably speak more to that. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, it's going to be outdoors. We did this similarly last year, but we did it in smaller groups, so about half of the kids in 2 different outdoor ceremonies. This year we're going to do a whole group as one ceremony outdoors. The kids are underneath, the students, the 8th grade students are underneath the main entrance canopy, and the stage is underneath the middle of the canopy, and then the seating is out in front of that. got some feedback that people enjoyed having it on campus. Had some special feeling to it being there, so they like that, and we're continuing. I put together an 8th grade parent committee where we kind of work out some of these details and the planning around it, and this is what they wanted to do.
Cool.
What time is that?
It's 5:30 is the start time. And a typical graduation lasts a good hour and 15 minutes.
The other event that we have coming up that same week, for board members that's not on our typical meeting schedule, would be staff appreciation, end of the year celebration. And that is on, Veronica,
The 22nd?
27th, so that would be Thursday if my math is still good. No, Friday. Can't be the 27th.
Is that correct? 26th.
26th. So all the board is welcome to come to that and be part of that ceremony, and anything you can do to help us prepare for that, you're welcome to do that, and Veronica, talk to Veronica.
Do we have any retiring teachers that they'll be?
Yeah, we honor retiring teachers.
Yeah.
And retiring
Oh, that's true?
Administrator.
Oh.
this year, so, yeah.
And classified staff.
And classified staff, and bus
Yeah.
drivers, anybody that's retiring, yes, we
Mhm.
honor, take some time to honor them,
Yeah.
which is fun.
What time is that?
Sad, but fun. That is right after school, so that's a little bit earlier, so about, we start that at 3:30.
3:30 through 45.
Somewhere in there. And that's on the 26th. At the Melbourne Middle School cafeteria.
And then we usually give a gift, right? That gift is technically from the board?
The board does provide a gift, so if you're so inclined and would like to contribute to that, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
You guys talk about
Mm-hmm.
what that looks like.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I'll send the board an email about
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You might have seen Dr. John's email this afternoon, the statement of economic interests. I started mine. I don't know how to answer the first question yet, so when I'll talk to you about it later or figure it out, but.
And they
Yeah.
made it a little bit more complicated this year.
Well, if it's what I think it is, depending on how specific we have to be, it's massively complicated. The first question, the rest of them don't apply to me, but when it says you have to list every asset over $10,000 outside of your house and your car.
Well, no, but there's a couple other things, like any retirement, or there was a bunch of stuff that they said didn't have to be excluded, yeah.
Yeah, but would that be in IRA? Would that be retirement then? You wouldn't have that?
Yeah, because to pull out of an IRA, you'd pay a penalty if it wasn't retirement,
Right.
so it is
Yeah.
retirement.
I don't know, the thing I sent out today was some clarification that actually came from Robin Schwartz.
Yeah, but that wasn't clear.
That wasn't clear, okay. I can help you. Because it made
I need
sense to me.
I need help.
Well,
But it
I
sounded
would-
to
I
me
would,
like there were a lot of things
I
that we
would
don't
look for
have
it.
to report.
I just said, I think I just
Didn't take me a lot of
submitted
time, so maybe I'll get arrested, but,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Whatever.
We just broke, so I didn't worry about it.
Yeah, when they're young.
You do have to do it.
Just like,
though, or
didn't
else
I say I'm
they'll
a
come
teacher? No, my portfolio's fine.
after you. You can't ignore it though, because they will come after you if you didn't do it. There's like a fine for every day
Oh,
after
yeah.
a deadline that you haven't done
Yeah,
it.
May 1st, I think, is it starts, and then
I think so.
15th, there's a bigger fine, so.
Well, I thought all I had to do was attach CEDAW. I'm like, oh, I'll just put CEDAW on that one, not realizing I had to redo it. So I was appreciative of the clarification email.
Did everybody get one? Oh. Yeah, we gotta make sure we do that. So maybe it'll be real simple if it's not retirement. I was thinking.
If it's not, we're
Oh,
paying
your
you too
mutual
much.
funds, so we're retirement account.
What do you mean by retirement?
Right. Board training dates we already talked about. track season is happening. It's fun going on, where there's a lot of end of the year concerts and plays and drama, so it's getting busy and well. It was miserable not to have kids together, but there was a lot less events. Now I'm remembering how busy it is in the spring with all the kids' events when we can come together and do those, which is really fun, but also very busy. So it's exciting, and I'm happy to do it. Okay, that's it for me.
Visitor's office.
Okay, I'll just kind of quickly run through it. The Public Act 102-0697, you've probably all seen it in the headlines that the, requiring the district to reinstate sick leave retro to the start of the school year for staff that were out for COVID reasons. So Carly, I think, sent out correspondence about that yesterday, and, you know, the questions have started coming in, so, you know, we're in the process of working through that. If there's anything that we don't know, then, you know, we'll either check with the attorney or look at the law to see specifically what is and isn't included. Property tax levy, we did get our worksheet for the property tax levy. When we actually get the certificate of levy, it'll be slightly different, just because of rounding, because I think it's in whole dollars and the worksheet is in dollars and cents. So our assessed value increased by about 2.1%. The tax rate is going to increase by 11 cents. But also be aware that there's one more levy before the bonds for the middle school are paid off, and at that point, that's a significant chunk of the property tax levy. That's equivalent to $1.92 of the levy. So it's pretty significant.
So next year's gonna suck.
Yeah, it will. It's gonna go up again next year, and then it'll go down after that.
But we also have the CPI that's gonna go.
I'm not really sure what CPI is gonna do. Initially, they thought that it would be another high year, but part of it just depends on what happens the balance of this year, because it's always measured from, is it December 31st one year to December 31st the prior year. So it doesn't really matter what happens in between. It's using one point in time, I think it's December 31st, looking back at December 31st of the prior year. So whatever that increase is. So we've had several times that we thought it was gonna be a big number, and then in December, the gas prices dropped, and all of a sudden, you know, when they compare the December 31st to December 31st of the year before, it didn't go up, you know, much at all. So that's because it's kind of.
Yeah, but this is only reflecting the 1.4% CPI.
Next year when it's gonna be.
This is the 1.4. Next year will be the 5%.
Next year's.
Yeah.
Yeah, next year's gonna suck.
And that will only be on the capped funds, and then the debt will be based on whatever the debt is. And then the county adds 1% onto that, so that if people don't pay their bills, we still have the funds in the account to pay the bonds on time. There was something new that was added this year, and I'm sure it's something that as we get closer to distribution of the funds that we'll learn more about, but the recapture levy, and I believe it uses like 3 years prior, looking at what wasn't collected. Oh, it's certificate of errors and property tax appeal board decisions, and what impact that had on the taxes we collect if those decisions were made after the levy, after the assessed value was set. So let's say that, you know, I appealed my assessed value of my property. Let's say it was assessed at 100,000, and after it went to the, appeals board, they reduced it to 100,000, and that 100,000 was money that we lost because that wasn't included in the assessed value. So for us, this year, that amount is $50,540. And I'm assuming that we'll distribute it among the capped funds, but I don't know that yet. They haven't really given us a lot of definition on how that should be done yet. But it is included in our levy. USDA supply chain assistance funds, I did apply for those. There's some hoops we have to jump through to keep some documentation. But basically it's to help reimburse districts for the additional cost of supply chain issues with not being able to get things, having to pay higher costs for some of the products that we purchase, etc. So we already, well, Carly, did we get that check already? Or no, it's just been vouchered, it hasn't been released yet. So it's $24,472.81. We talked a little bit about summer help, and that 6 employees is looking at 6 employees working an 8-hour day over 69 days. Because the thing that's difficult is we'll have some of the, especially when we get college students, they may be able to start in the middle of May, but then they have to leave at the end of July, beginning of August. Sometimes you have people that start in the middle of June. We have had some of our own staff who may only work 4 hours a day for 25 days, depending on what the project is they're working on. So in order to keep it consistent from year to year, we kind of use that standard to look at who we're hiring and what kind of time we're looking at. And no matter what you do as far as calculating, you're still going to have people that will start the summer and then quit, you know, halfway through the summer, either because they find a better job or they realize how much work it is. Because it is very difficult work when you're doing a lot of the things, because they're, you know, they're helping with moving desks, they're helping with painting, you know, all those kind of things that are done in the summer in a school district. Carly actually wrote a grant for Project Learning Garden, and we did receive that grant for the elementary school, and the value of the materials that they're providing is about $3,000. On April 6th, we had a manufacturer representative come in and do a training with the elementary custodial staff on maintaining the luxury vinyl tile flooring, since we're going to be adding a significant portion of that this summer. Lots of things we learned that I wish we had known last year, but all good things. Health dental insurance, HMO 6.7% increase, PPO 11.5%, no increase in the Delta Dental HMO premium, the PPO premium 2.5% increase, the vision insurance no increase, the life insurance no increase, and the disability insurance no increase. And I put some additional information in there for you. Maintenance of effort. This is looking at, each year we have to do a maintenance of effort calculation, and Carly's done this the last several years. We have to show that for our special education students that we're spending as much or more either in total or per student as we did the prior year. Well, this was for FY '21, which was last year, when we were half days, and so transportation was cut, etc. There are some, and we didn't meet MOE. There are exceptions, and we're in the process of working through those, so that we can come up with the exceptions to show that we met the maintenance of effort. So this is the first year since I've been here that we haven't met it like right off the bat. But it's also understandable because we had a lot of students who left the district. We had some parents whose students were at CEDAL who pulled them out and homeschooled them. So all of those count as exceptions, and we can take those dollars and apply them against those amounts. If we had any high-cost teachers that left that we replaced with a lower-cost teacher. Those are exceptions. It's just a lot of work to go back and try and figure out. But I think one of the big areas where we spent less was transportation. And that was because a lot of the private schools were still remote last year while we were actually coming in person. So we didn't have the expenses of transporting them back and forth to their private placement. Clean school buses. I did attend a webinar that the EPA put on. They're getting ready to start a 5-year clean school bus program. And it sounds like a lot of money, but it really isn't when you're talking about the entire United States. $5 billion over 5 years. There will be funding opportunities. That's something that as we go, we'll have to evaluate if we're likely to receive the grants. And, you know, one of the things that they stress is they're going to focus on areas with low income and I think it was even like, you know, tribal organizations and some of those kind of things. So I don't know what we'll get, but that's something that we'll definitely look at. And then Brendan actually shared an article about a couple companies, and actually in the article it also named some other companies that are looking into setting up programs almost like a subscription model where you would pay X amount of dollars per year for so many years, and they would provide you with the bus and the charging equipment and all those things. The one thing that you've got to remember with that, though, is that the electrical grid within our area has to support the needs of the charging system. We have to there's going to be a cost involved in increasing the electricity coming to the site, and then just that whole installation cost. So it is exciting, and I think probably over the next 10 years we're going to see either electric and or natural gas powered buses, which is kind of what their program, they're looking at clean school buses, and they consider both natural gas as well as electric school buses as being clean school buses. So I think you're going to see more and more of that occurring. And that's about all I had. Anybody have any questions? So definitely is something that, you know, is going to happen. It's just a matter of when we can afford to be a part of that.
Would they provide something for you to compare the cost of a gas-powered bus?
Right now it's about 2.5 times. To get an electric bus and all the equipment, it's about 2.5 times what a diesel or a gas bus is.
Okay. And that's the natural gas too. That would be totally different, right?
The natural gas is probably not as expensive.
How would you? Do you have?
I don't know. We haven't really checked into
that
that
would be
yet.
like, how would you fill that up, or?
Yeah, you would have to have
Still have to have something kind of installed, right?
a station to, yeah, you'd have to have something to do that. And we've been able to get by without putting gas or diesel tanks here, and they have a lot of EPA regulations with them as well. So it's something that for small districts, if you can avoid having to have, you know, gas of any kind on site, that's much easier to deal with EPA. And I can tell you from experience, because the person in the blue suit showed up at one of the districts I worked at because they had requested information. The consultant that the district was using when we had lined our tank didn't provide it to the EPA, so then they decided to come, and it was ended up having to come to a settlement agreement with the EPA in order to settle it. So I'd rather not have gas tanks on school property.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Jones.
Okay.
Board reports.
I took a tour of the middle school.
Yay!
They said I was the first one there, so everyone needs to go. It was stunning. Just how much education has changed since I was in school. And, you know, you get the old book, you get the paper bag, you put the paper bag in, you'd have a backpack full of stuff. And you take it to each class, or you throw it in the locker and rotate it out. Nope, now it's just a little iPad, and they just march along from class to class, and the technology is just. I mean, we went to one of the tech rooms, and what they're learning there is just phenomenal. It's absolutely wonderful. So, go take a look in the middle school and see what they have. It's just shocking. I did talk with Jake. He was wonderful. He escorted me through the place. He answered all my questions. The only concern he really raised was employees. We need more staff there, but you know, I can't really help with that other than bring it up. And we just have to wait for the right person to come and apply for those types of jobs. But it was absolutely amazing. So please come. They are waiting for you. Let them know, and they'll give you a wonderful tour through the place. It was fun.
Cool.
Awesome. Anybody else? Do we have a closed session?
No.
No.
Don't need to.
All right. Return to open session. Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Hearing none, we are closed.